Ladies and gentlemen, ask yourself this: how many hours, how many days, how many years of your life have been quietly stolen by people who don't value you? How many times have you said yes out of habit, out of guilt, or out of fear and lost precious time you'll never get back? Today, I'm going to show you why reclaiming your time is the single most powerful act of self respect you will ever take, and how protecting it can change everything: your focus, your goals, and your life. Stop letting people waste your time, because every moment you give away to someone who hasn't earned it is a moment you can never get back. Time is not money. Money comes back. Time doesn't. And the longer you allow others to pull you into their chaos, their indecision, their drama, their lack of vision, the further you drift from the life you're meant to build. Your time is your life. If someone is wasting it, they're wasting you. People will take from you as long as you allow it. Some do it intentionally, others do it out of habit. And some don't even realize the impact they have on your life because you've trained them silently that your time is accessible, flexible, and free. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. When you constantly say yes, when you keep showing up for people who don't show up for you, when you allow repeated interruptions, you're sending a message that your time is negotiable. It's not. It never was. You need to understand something deeply. Your energy, your focus, your drive, your hours, these are resources, limited resources. If you give them away to people who are not adding anything meaningful to your life, you're underinvesting in yourself. And when you underinvest in yourself, you start becoming resentful, exhausted, overwhelmed, and disconnected from your goals. You start living someone else's life instead of your own. Think about how many times you've been pulled into conversations that go nowhere. How many times you've been guilt-tripped into doing favors for people who never reciprocate. How many hours you've lost listening to someone complain, rant, or vent about the same problem they have no intention of fixing. People like that don't value solutions. They value attention. And if you're not careful, you'll become the emotional sponge they squeeze every time they feel empty. You need to be more protective of your time, not just in big ways, but in small ones too. Guard your mornings. Guard your mental space. Guard your focus. Guard the moments when you're working on something important and someone tries to interrupt you, because it'll only take a minute. It never takes a minute. It always takes more: your attention, your momentum, your peace. Start recognizing the difference between people who deserve access to you and people who simply want access to you. They are not the same. The people who deserve access are the ones who also give. They give effort, respect, support, accountability, honesty. They value your time because they value you. The people who only want access take without limit. They take your patience, your attention, your energy, your emotional bandwidth. They show up when they need something and disappear when you need them. They don't respect boundaries because you haven't enforced any. But boundaries are your responsibility. You cannot blame someone for draining you if you keep handing them the cord. This is where many people struggle. They're afraid of disappointing others. They fear being seen as rude, selfish, or unhelpful. But let me tell you the truth: protecting your time is not selfish. It's self-respect. People who get upset because you set boundaries are the people who benefited from you having none. You need to make peace with saying no. No is not rejection. No is direction. It's you choosing your path instead of allowing someone else to drag you down theirs. And if someone can't handle that, it means they were only in your life for what you could give them, not for who you are. You also need to take an honest look at your environment. Who drains you? Who distracts you? Who slows you down? And who pushes you, uplifts you, sharpens you, motivates you? You cannot elevate your life while keeping company with people who have no intention of growing. You can't rise if you're constantly being pulled sideways. Time wasters come in many forms. The friend who always has a crisis but never takes responsibility. The coworker who dumps work on you because they know you won't say no. The family member who interrupts your schedule because they assume you'll drop everything. The person who keeps asking for advice but never applies it. The one who wants your attention but not your boundaries. The one who wants companionship but not commitment. The one who wants your energy but not your effort returned. If someone continually makes deposits in your life, support, kindness, effort, loyalty, then give them time generously. But if someone keeps making withdrawals, leaving you depleted, stressed, or unfocused, it's time to close the account. And let's talk about your goals for a moment. Great things require uninterrupted focus. They require long stretches of time where your mind is clear and your energy is directed. You cannot build anything meaningful when you're constantly pulled into meaningless interactions. You cannot unlock your potential when your time is being drained by people who are stuck in place. Your future demands more from you than your past ever did. You need discipline, you need boundaries, you need the courage to say, my time matters. Stop explaining yourself. Stop apologizing for wanting to protect your focus. Stop defending your decisions to people who have no idea what you're trying to build. Some people don't understand your goals because they don't have any of their own. And you cannot wait for their approval before you start valuing your time. You owe it to yourself to create a life where your time is treated with respect, and that starts with you. Respect your own time first. When you do, other people will follow your lead. If they don't, they won't stay long, and that's a blessing, not a loss. There's power in walking away from interactions that drain you. There's strength in distancing yourself from people who constantly expect more than they give. There's clarity in deciding who gets access to you and who doesn't. And there's freedom in realizing that not every call deserves to be answered. Not every message deserves a reply. Not every invitation deserves a yes. And not every person deserves your time. Every day you wake up is a new deposit of time, precious, limited, irreplaceable. Spend it wisely. Spend it intentionally. Spend it on relationships, work, and pursuits that move your life forward. If someone is wasting your time, they are holding you back from the life you're trying to create. And you cannot afford to let that happen anymore. And when you finally decide to reclaim your time, something powerful happens. You start seeing the world more clearly. You begin to notice who actually values you and who only valued the convenience of having you available. You start recognizing which relationships were built on mutual respect and which were built on your willingness to overextend yourself. That clarity might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's the kind of discomfort that leads to growth. Because once you see the truth, you can no longer pretend it isn't there. You'll realize that some people were never really asking for your time, they were demanding it. They were inserting themselves into your schedule, your thoughts, your emotional space, without any regard for how it affected you. And the moment you pull back, the moment you say, I'm focusing on something important, or I can't do that right now, they react, they push back, they accuse you of changing. And you know what? You are changing. You're evolving into someone who values themselves enough to protect what's sacred. There is nothing wrong with that. Growth requires boundaries. Success requires boundaries. Peace requires boundaries. And the people who cannot respect yours are showing you they don't want you to grow, succeed, or be at peace unless it benefits them. That's why you need to keep going. That's why you need to hold firm. Because once you reclaim your time, you reclaim your life. You start noticing how much more focused you are when you're not available to every distraction. How much more mentally clear you feel when you're not carrying the emotional weight of other people's problems. How much more confident you become when you stop apologizing for prioritizing your own goals. You feel lighter, more decisive, more in control, and that's because you've shifted from reacting to everything around you to choosing what deserves your attention. The truth is, time wasters don't always show up with obvious red flags. Sometimes they come in disguise as people who just want to talk. Sometimes they're the ones who praise you publicly but drain you privately. Sometimes they're the ones who act supportive as long as your growth doesn't inconvenience them. These are the most subtle drains on your time because they appear harmless, but their impact is heavy. They distract you from your vision with insignificant conversations. They consume your emotional energy with problems they never intend to solve. They derail your productivity with spontaneous requests, and because their behavior is wrapped in familiarity, you don't immediately see how much time you're giving away. But once you pull back, you start recognizing just how many hours, days, even you've lost to the wrong people. And then something else happens. People start treating your time the way you treat it. When you show up for yourself consistently, people notice. When you say no without over-explaining, people adjust. When you communicate your limits with clarity and confidence, people either rise to your standard or fade out. Either way, the right people remain and the wrong people leave. That's not loss, that's alignment. You were never meant to be accessible to everyone. You were never meant to carry the emotional loads of people who refuse to grow. You were never meant to sacrifice your own progress just to avoid hurting someone's feelings. You were meant to build, to evolve, to rise, to become someone who uses their time intentionally. So stop wasting your energy trying to keep everyone comfortable while you stay exhausted. Stop making yourself small so others can feel important. Stop investing your hours into people who give you nothing but stress in return. Your time is not an unlimited resource. Treat it like the rare currency it is. This also means becoming conscious of the way you speak about your time. When you say things like, "I'm always here if you need me," you're creating an open door policy for people who don't know when to stop. When you say, "It's okay, I'm not busy," even when you are, you're training others to dismiss your priorities. When you say yes to things you don't want to do, things that pull you away from your goals, you're reinforcing the idea that your life is negotiable. Start shifting the language you use. Say, "I'm focusing on something important right now." Say, "That doesn't align with my priorities." Say, "I don't have the bandwidth for that." Not only does this protect your time, it teaches others to respect it. You're not being rude, you're being intentional. And the people who understand that will respect you even more. There's another truth you need to understand. Some people waste your time because they're avoiding responsibility for their own. They latch onto you because you're accountable, disciplined, grounded. They want your stability because they lack their own. And as long as you keep rescuing them from their problems, they will never learn to stand on their own. They will depend on you for things they should be doing for themselves. Your time is not a safety net for someone else's complacency. You can support people, yes, but you cannot carry them. You cannot put your life on hold to fix someone who refuses to fix themselves. You cannot let their lack of discipline become your burden. Protecting your time also means protecting your mental environment. When you surround yourself with people who complain constantly, who blame others, who gossip, who procrastinate, who stay stuck, you absorb that energy. Your mind starts to adopt patterns that don't belong to you. Your focus gets diluted by their stagnation. You start moving slower, thinking smaller, doubting yourself more. Not because of who you are, but because of who you allow near you. Time wasters don't just drain minutes, they drain momentum. And momentum is everything. One good hour of focused effort can move your life forward more than weeks of distracted effort. One boundary can give you more peace than years of being overly available. You need to start asking yourself, if I give this person my time, what am I losing and what am I gaining? If the answer keeps coming back empty, it's time to pull back. It's time to choose differently. It's time to honor the goals that keep calling your name. And let's be honest, you know exactly where your time is leaking. You know who drains you. You know who leaves you feeling empty. You know who keeps you stagnant. You know whose calls you dread, whose messages you avoid, whose presence feels heavy. Listen to that feeling. It's not negativity, it's self-awareness. Your intuition is telling you what your boundaries need to protect. Start giving your time only to people who uplift your mind, sharpen your thinking, support your growth, and respect your limits. People who bring calm, not chaos. Solutions, not excuses. Accountability, not drama. Those people deserve you, and you deserve them. Your time is your power, and the moment you stop letting people waste it, you become unstoppable. Once you've begun to reclaim your time, you start noticing just how precious every moment truly is. Time is a currency that never replenishes itself. Every hour you spend distracted, overextended, or catering to people who don't value your energy is an hour you can never get back. And the more you invest in protecting it, the richer your life becomes not financially, but in clarity, purpose, and fulfillment. You begin to see the difference between living reactively and living intentionally. Living reactively is when someone else's needs, demands, or chaos dictate how you spend your day. Living intentionally is when you choose where your attention goes, when you decide who deserves a seat at your table, and when you determine what truly moves you closer to your goals. This is not easy. People will test you. They will push against your boundaries because they have always benefited from you having none. They will accuse you of being cold, distant, or selfish. But understand this. Protecting your time is neither cold nor selfish. It is essential. It is self-respect in its purest form. If someone's opinion of you suffers because you are no longer available at all hours for their convenience, that is their issue, not yours. You are not responsible for everyone else's comfort at the expense of your own life. There will also be moments of doubt, moments when you wonder if you're being too strict, too protective, too unwilling to bend. This is normal. Growth always challenges comfort zones. But every time you choose your priorities over someone else's demands, you strengthen your capacity to lead your own life. You demonstrate to yourself and the world that your time is valuable, that your energy is sacred, and that your life is worth being guarded fiercely. The people who respect this are worth keeping. The ones who resent it are worth letting go. Another truth that becomes clear is that people rarely waste your time out of malice. They often do it out of habit. They've learned that your availability is limitless, that your focus is negotiable, that your goals are secondary to their immediate needs. And breaking that habit requires firmness and consistency. It requires learning to say no before you even feel guilt. It requires understanding that your yes has weight, and if you give it away to people who do not honor it, it loses value. The more deliberate you become in allocating your time, the more control you reclaim over your life. Every hour you spend on your own growth compounds into something greater: skills, knowledge, resilience, peace. You will start noticing how much mental energy is wasted in interactions that go nowhere. The conversations that revolve around drama, negativity, or indecision. The requests that have no boundaries and no urgency, but consume your focus anyway. The constant checking in on people who never check in on you. These are not harmless distractions, they are drains. And once you recognize them as such, you stop letting them steal from your day. You stop letting them determine your mood. You stop letting them dictate your trajectory. At the same time, reclaiming your time is not about isolation. It is about choosing wisely. It is about learning to surround yourself with people who energize you, challenge you, and support your growth. It is about investing in relationships that are reciprocal, not one-sided. It is about making room in your life for connections that matter instead of letting meaningless interactions fill every empty space. And when you do this, your life begins to feel lighter, sharper, and more purposeful. The weight of obligation lifts, and you feel more grounded in your own goals. One of the most important skills you develop is learning to distinguish urgency from importance. Many time wasters disguise their demands as urgent, pressing, or essential. But when you step back and evaluate, you realize that most of it is neither urgent nor important. It is filler disguised as necessity, and if you do not guard against it, it will consume your entire life. Your ability to discern this distinction becomes your superpower. It allows you to allocate your attention where it truly matters: toward growth, toward achievement, toward relationships that nourish you. You also begin to see the importance of rituals, routines, and structured time. When you are deliberate about how you use your hours, the interruptions and distractions that once derailed you lose their power. You develop the discipline to block time for your priorities, to schedule focus, to honor commitments to yourself. And when you treat your own time as a priority, you send a clear signal to others that your attention is not a commodity to be exploited. In this process, you also develop a sharper sense of personal accountability. You begin asking yourself critical questions. Am I giving my time away to things that truly matter? Am I saying yes out of habit or obligation? Am I investing in people and pursuits that elevate me? Or am I allowing my energy to be drained by those who add nothing? Answering these questions honestly can be uncomfortable, but it is transformative. It forces you to confront how much of your life has been reactive rather than intentional, and gives you the power to change it. Another realization is that time wasters often thrive on emotional manipulation. They know that if they guilt you, shame you, or distract you, they can bend your attention to their needs. This is where emotional intelligence becomes critical. You must learn to recognize the subtle ways people try to pull you off course through urgency, through drama, through appeals to loyalty or friendship. You must respond not with anger or resentment, but with clarity and firmness. This is how you maintain control without burning bridges unnecessarily. You learn to respond without losing your center. In addition, reclaiming your time requires courage. There will be people who become upset, offended, or dismissive when you begin prioritizing yourself. Some will try to convince you that your focus on your own life is selfish, that your boundaries are unnecessary, that your time is yours to waste. Resist this pressure. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in alignment with your values despite fear. And your value lies in how you use your time, how you guard your energy, and how you build the life you envision. As you continue on this path, you start to notice the exponential benefits of protecting your time. When you are intentional, your productivity increases. When you are disciplined, your progress accelerates. When you are selective, your relationships deepen. When you are present, your influence grows. You are no longer a passive participant in life, reacting to every demand or distraction. You are the architect of your own days, the gatekeeper of your energy, and the curator of the people and experiences you allow into your orbit. You also learn the importance of letting go. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table, not everyone deserves a conversation, and not everyone deserves your attention. Some people have been in your life for years, draining you quietly, disguised as friendship, loyalty, or family obligation. Recognizing this and taking action without guilt is an act of liberation. It is not about cutting people off maliciously, it is about creating space for your own growth, for your own goals, for your own focus. Every person you allow to remain in your life should serve a purpose: to uplift, to challenge, to support, to inspire. If they do not, they are not worth your time. You will also notice that reclaiming your time changes how you view opportunities. You no longer accept anything that doesn't align with your priorities. You no longer chase after every project, every request, every social obligation. You filter ruthlessly. This is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is a recognition that time is finite, that energy is precious, and that you cannot give yourself fully to anything if you are constantly giving it away indiscriminately. Finally, reclaiming your time is about mastering the art of intentional living. It is about understanding that every minute is a choice, and every choice shapes the trajectory of your life. It is about aligning your actions with your values, your relationships with your goals, and your focus with your vision. When you do this consistently, you step into a version of yourself that is disciplined, empowered, and unstoppable. You stop letting people waste your time, and you start using it to build the life you were meant to live. You stop reacting to the world and start creating your own path. You stop being a passenger and become the driver.